Dad perfect events. When I was cleaning out my late wife's garage, I found an envelope marked for Clay, "Don't show Nicole." Inside was a key to a safe deposit box and a note that changed everything I thought I knew about my family. My name is Clarence Parker, but everyone calls me Clay. I'm 58, been retired from Ford Motor for about 6 months now after putting in my 30 years as a foreman on the glass assembly line. My wife Linda passed 8 months ago from cancer, and I've been putting off going through her things. You know how it is, some boxes are just too hard to open. Linda and I had a good life together here in Toledo. Nothing fancy, but solid. We raised our son Ryan in a 3-bedroom ranch on Maple Street, about 10 minutes from the Maumee River. I worked the line at the glass plant, then moved up to supervisor, eventually foreman. Linda worked part-time at the school district until her health started going downhill. We weren't rich, but we paid our bills, went to Riverside Baptist on Sundays, and had a little cabin up at Lake Erie for summer weekends. Ryan's 38 now, works in IT support for one of the medical groups downtown, married to Nicole for about 9 years. She's 34, works in marketing for some insurance company in the business district. They've got our granddaughter Grace, who just turned 9 last month. Sweet kid, looks just like Linda did at that age, with those big brown eyes and that stubborn chin. I'll be honest, I never took to Nicole much. Can't put my finger on exactly why, but Linda used to say she had a way of making everything about herself. Like when we'd have family dinners, somehow the conversation always ended up being about Nicole's job problems or Nicole's mother or whatever Nicole needed help with. She'd compliment Linda's cooking, then spend 20 minutes talking about her own cooking classes. You know the type, but Ryan seemed happy enough, and it wasn't my place to interfere. Marriage is tough enough without the in-laws stirring the pot. After Linda died, Nicole started coming around more often. At first I thought it was nice, checking on the old man, bringing casseroles, that kind of thing. But something felt off about it. She'd ask questions about my finances that seemed a little too interested. "How are you managing on just your pension, Clay? Or have you thought about downsizing? This house is awfully big for one person." Then there were the comments about my age, nothing direct, but little things. It's so hard to keep track of all these bills and accounts when you're dealing with grief. Or maybe Ryan and I should help you organize your paperwork. Always said with a smile, always sounding helpful. Ryan would nod along, but I could tell he was uncomfortable. My son's a good man, but he's never been one to stand up to conflict. Takes after his mother that way. Linda always said he'd rather keep the peace than rock the boat. The weird thing was, Nicole seemed to know more about our financial situation than she should. She'd mention our mortgage being paid off, or ask about my 401k rollover, or wonder aloud about life insurance policies. Information Ryan must have shared, but why was she so interested in the details? I started noticing other things too. Nicole would walk through our house like she was measuring it with her eyes. She'd comment on the hardwood floors, the updated kitchen, the big backyard. "This house has really held its value," she'd say, "or properties in this neighborhood are going for good money these days." It was the 3rd week of May when I finally made myself go through Linda's things in the garage. She kept her workspace organized like a military operation, everything labeled, everything in its place. Pegboard with tool outlines, coffee cans sorted by screw size, even her garden supplies lined up by season. That woman could organize anything. I was going through the metal cabinet in the far corner, the one that smelled like WD-40 and old newspapers, when I found it. Tucked behind a box of Christmas decorations, wrapped in plastic to keep it dry, was a plain white envelope. My name written on the front in Linda's careful handwriting. For Clay, "Don't show Nicole." I stood there for a long moment in the dusty light filtering through the garage window. My hands, I noticed, were completely still. In 30 years of marriage, Linda had never kept secrets from me. We shared everything. Bank accounts, decisions, worries, dreams. The fact that she'd hidden something and specifically told me not to show Nicole sent a chill down my spine. The note inside was short, written in Linda's careful handwriting. "Clay, there are things I need to tell you that I couldn't say while I was sick. Check box 247 at First National. Ask for Vincent Martinez. He knows about this. Nicole has been asking about our life insurance policy and asking Ryan about inheritance laws. Be careful. I love you." My hands were shaking when I finished reading it. Linda had known something was wrong with Nicole, and she'd kept it from me while she was fighting cancer. The woman was protecting me even while she was dying, and I'd been too focused on her illness to see what was happening right under my nose. The key was small and brass, the kind you get for safe deposit boxes. I'd never seen it before. I drove to First National that same afternoon, my mind racing. Vincent Martinez has been my banker for almost 20 years. We went through the whole mortgage process together, refinanced twice when the rates dropped, set up the college savings account for Grace. good man, originally from El Salvador, worked his way up from teller to branch manager through night school in sheer determination. Clay, Vincent said, when I showed him the key, Linda said you'd come eventually. She made me promise not to contact you until you were ready. He led me back through the marble lobby to the vault area, past the old photographs of Toledo's glass industry that decorated the walls. First National had been in this building since the 1940s, back when the city was booming with factory work and union jobs were solid gold. Vincent punched in the security code and we walked into the safe deposit box room. The box was bigger than I expected. Inside was a leather portfolio and a sealed letter with my name on it. The portfolio contained bank statements, investment records, and copies of documents I'd never seen before. Over the past 11 years, Linda had been quietly building an investment account, putting away money from her part-time work and managing it carefully. The final balance as of January this year was $380,000. I sat in that little room for a long time, staring at the numbers. We'd always kept our finances simple: checking account, savings account, my 401k from Ford. I'd handled all the bills, balanced the checkbook, filed the taxes. I thought I knew every penny we had, but Linda had been playing a longer game. The letter explained everything. Linda had started the account after Nicole came into the family. She'd noticed how Nicole talked about money, how she seemed to size up everything we owned, how she'd make comments about family wealth and inheritance planning at family gatherings. Nicole would ask pointed questions about property values, insurance policies, retirement accounts, always casual, always friendly, but always digging. But there was more. Linda had documented conversations where Nicole had asked Ryan about our insurance policies, about what would happen to the house when we died, about whether we had any hidden assets that might not be obvious. She'd even copied emails between Nicole and Ryan where Nicole talked about getting ahead of the game with estate planning. The worst part was discovering that Nicole had somehow gotten Ryan to sign power of attorney documents that he thought were just emergency planning papers. Linda had copies of those too, along with a note that Nicole had been pressuring Ryan to get me to sign similar documents. In case something happens to you, Clay, Nicole had told Ryan, your father's getting older and these things need to be in place. Linda's handwriting was shakier in the later entries. The cancer was taking its toll, but her observations were sharp. Nicole had asked about our wills, our bank accounts, even whether we had any family heirlooms that might be valuable. She'd suggested Ryan take photos of our important documents for safekeeping. I drove home with that portfolio on the passenger seat, feeling like I was seeing my family through different eyes. The house looked the same: brown brick ranch, well-maintained lawn, my Ford F-150 in the driveway where it belonged. But everything felt different now. When I got home, Nicole's silver Camry was in my driveway. She was in my kitchen, going through the mail on my counter. Bills, insurance statements, bank notices, all the paperwork that comes with being a widower trying to manage everything alone. When she saw me come in, she smiled that bright smile and said, "Oh, Clay, I hope you don't mind. Ryan gave me the spare key so I could check on you. I was just organizing these bills for you." "That's thoughtful," I said, setting the portfolio down behind her where she couldn't see it. "But I can handle my own mail." "Of course you can," she said quickly. "I just thought with everything you're dealing with, maybe some help with the administrative stuff would be good. Ryan worries about you being alone in this big house." She moved around my kitchen like she owned it, straightening things that didn't need straightening, organizing papers that were already organized. "Actually, I've been thinking Ryan and I would love to have you move in with us. You shouldn't be rattling around in this big house all alone. Think of the money you'd save." There it was. The first real move. This house has been my home for 28 years, Nicole. Linda and I picked it out together, raised Ryan here. I'm not going anywhere. Her smile flickered just a little. "Well, of course it's your decision, but think about the practical benefits. You could sell this place, invest the money properly, have Ryan help you manage your portfolio. We just want to make sure you're taken care of as you get older." "Who says I need taking care of? Clay, you're 58 years old. That's not old, but it's not young either. Financial planning gets more complex as we age. Ryan and I have been researching options for you." After she left, I sat at my kitchen table and read through Linda's documents again. Every observation, every warning, every piece of evidence she'd carefully collected. My wife had seen this coming from miles away. I called Harold Jenkins. Harold's been doing legal work for union families for 35 years, handled our wills, helped with contract negotiations when the company tried to cut benefits. Solid guy who doesn't waste time with fancy talk. His office is above Murphy's Diner on Summit Street, the kind of place where working people go when they need real help, not corporate polish. "Clay," he said after I explained the situation, "your wife was a smart woman. She saw this coming from a mile away. The question is, what do you want to do about it?" Over the next 2 weeks, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Nicole came by every few days, always with some excuse. She'd clean things I hadn't asked her to clean, organize papers I hadn't asked her to organize, and ask questions about my routine, my habits, my plans. How are you sleeping, Clay? Are you eating regular meals? Maybe you should get one of those medical alert systems. Ryan would call and ask how I was managing everything. When I said I was doing fine, he'd hesitate and say, well, if you need help with anything financial, Nicole's really good with that stuff. She's been helping some of her relatives get organized. I also noticed my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, had seen Nicole in my backyard with a measuring tape. When I asked Nicole about it, she said she'd been thinking about what kind of garden would be nice for you to maintain and wanted to get measurements for planning. That's when I decided to set up some security cameras. Nothing fancy, just a basic system from Menards that I could monitor from my phone. I'd worked with electrical systems for 30 years at Ford, so installing a couple cameras wasn't rocket science. I mounted one over the front door and one in the back, both visible enough that anyone would know they were there if they bothered to look. The cameras proved their worth within a week. Nicole came by when she thought I was at my doctor's appointment. I'd mentioned having a checkup scheduled. She let herself in with that spare key Ryan had given her and spent 45 minutes going through my house like she was taking inventory. I watched it all on my phone from the parking lot at Dr. Morrison's office. She photographed documents on my desk, looked through filing cabinets, even checked the freezer in the basement storage room. She was systematic about it, like she'd done this before. Every few minutes she'd take pictures with her phone, bank statements, insurance papers, anything that had numbers on it. The most disturbing part was watching her in Linda's old sewing room, which I'd barely touched since she died. Nicole went through Linda's jewelry box, not taking anything, just cataloging what was there. She even opened the cedar chest where Linda kept her good linens and family photos. I had it all on video. When I got home, Nicole was gone, but she'd left the house exactly as she found it. If I hadn't been watching, I'd never have known she'd been there. That's what made it so creepy, the calculation of it all. Harold helped me set up the legal trap. We scheduled a family meeting at my house for a Saturday afternoon. I told Ryan and Nicole I wanted to discuss my future plans and get their input on some financial decisions. Nicole couldn't hide her excitement.
"Oh, Clay, that's wonderful," she said when I called. "Ryan and I have been so worried about you handling everything alone."
We've actually been researching some options that might help. I set up my phone to record the conversation. Ohio's a one-party consent state, so it was completely legal. Harold had coached me on what questions to ask to get Nicole to reveal her real intentions. They came over that Saturday with a folder full of papers and a legal pad covered in Nicole's handwriting. Grace stayed home with Nicole's mother, probably for the best. We sat around my kitchen table, the same table where Linda and I had eaten thousands of meals, made plans, argued about money, celebrated birthdays. Now I was using it as a battlefield. "Clay," Nicole started, "we're so glad you're ready to talk about this. Ryan and I have been researching options for you, and we think we've found some solutions that could really improve your quality of life." She laid out a whole plan. I should sell the house and move into a senior living community. Nothing drastic, just a nice apartment where I wouldn't have to worry about maintenance. Ryan should take power of attorney to simplify decision-making and reduce my stress. They'd found a financial advisor who specialized in elder portfolio management and could optimize my investments. "What investments?" I asked. "Well, your pension, your Social Security, whatever savings you have, plus the equity in this house. We think there's probably more value here than you realize." Ryan shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He knew our financial situation better than Nicole thought, and he knew we weren't sitting on any hidden treasure. But Nicole was painting a picture of untapped wealth that needed professional management. How much more? That's when Nicole made her mistake. "Ryan and I estimate you're probably sitting on at least $400,000 in combined assets. That's nothing to sneeze at, Clay. But it needs to be managed properly to ensure your care as you age, and you think you should manage it. We think you need professional help," she said, leaning forward. "And frankly, at your age, some of these decisions are getting too complex for one person to handle alone. The tax implications, the estate planning, the investment strategies, it's overwhelming even for people much younger than you." Ryan looked uncomfortable, but he didn't speak up. "That hurt more than anything," Nicole said. "My own son, sitting there while his wife talked about me like I was already senile. What if I told you I'm more financially secure than you think I am?" I asked. Nicole's eyes lit up like I'd just told her Christmas was coming early. "What do you mean? What if Linda left me more than you know about?" She practically vibrated with excitement. "Clay, if there are assets we don't know about, that's exactly why you need our help. Hidden accounts, investments that aren't being properly managed, that's a recipe for disaster. You could be losing money every day. Hidden from who? Well, from the family, from Ryan. We should all know what we're working with so we can plan appropriately." There it was, recorded on my phone. Nicole thinking she was entitled to know about and manage my finances, talking about what we're working with like she already owned it. I mean, she continued, if something happened to you, Ryan would need to know about these accounts to handle your affairs. It's just responsible planning. What makes you think something's going to happen to me? Nicole backpedaled quickly. Nothing. Of course, you're in good health. But Clay, you're not getting any younger, and these things take time to set up properly. The sooner we get everything organized, the better protected you'll be. The meeting ended with me saying I'd consider their suggestions. Nicole was practically glowing as they left, already planning how to spend money that wasn't hers. I think that went really well, she told Ryan as they walked to their car. He's finally being reasonable about getting help. 3 days later, Harold filed papers to create a revocable trust with the $380,000 from Linda's account, protected from any outside interference. We also documented the security camera footage and Nicole's recorded statements about managing my finances. I didn't have to wait long for the next move. Nicole called me on a Tuesday morning, her voice different, sharper, less friendly. The helpful daughter-in-law mask was starting to slip. Clay, I've been talking to some people about elderly financial abuse. Did you know that seniors who isolate themselves and refuse family help are often taken advantage of by unscrupulous people? Is that so? I think you might need a professional assessment to make sure you're competent to handle your financial affairs. For your own protection, of course. Are you threatening me, Nicole? I'm trying to protect you, Clay, and protect my husband's inheritance. That conversation went straight to Harold along with the recorded family meeting and the security footage. The legal battle lasted 6 months. Nicole filed a petition claiming I was mentally incompetent and needed a guardian to manage my affairs. She presented evidence of confusion and poor judgment, mostly based on my refusal to accept reasonable help with my finances and my paranoid behavior of installing security cameras. Her attorney painted a picture of an elderly widower, isolated and suspicious, making poor decisions while refusing family assistance. They had statements from people Nicole knew claiming I'd seemed confused during conversations, though none of them could provide specific examples when pressed. Harold's response was devastating. We had Linda's documented warnings, dating back 5 years. We had Nicole's recorded admissions about wanting to manage my assets. We had security footage of her going through my house without permission. We had the power of attorney documents she'd tricked Ryan into signing, along with Linda's notes about Nicole's pressure tactics. But the strongest evidence was Nicole's own words. In that recorded family meeting, she'd revealed exactly what she was after and why she thought she deserved it. She'd talked about we and our planning when discussing my finances. She'd estimated my worth down to the dollar and explained how she intended to optimize it. The judge dismissed Nicole's petition completely. He noted that Linda's advanced planning showed remarkable foresight and that my refusal to surrender financial control to non-family members was entirely reasonable and indicative of sound judgment. He also commented on the security footage. The installation of surveillance equipment by a homeowner who has reason to suspect unauthorized entry demonstrates prudent thinking, not paranoid behavior. Nicole's attorney dropped her case the next week. I suspect he'd seen enough of her emails and recorded statements to realize his client wasn't as sympathetic as she'd originally appeared. The whole process opened Ryan's eyes in ways I'd hoped it would but hadn't been sure about. Watching his wife's manipulation tactics exposed in court, seeing the documented evidence of her scheming, finally understanding how she'd been using him as a pipeline to family information. It was hard on him, but necessary. Ryan and I had a long talk after everything settled. We sat on my back porch, drinking beer and watching the sun go down over the neighborhood where he'd grown up. The same porch where I'd taught him to throw a baseball, where Linda had bandaged his scraped knees, where we'd had the talk about birds and bees when he was 14. Dad, he said, I knew something felt wrong, but I thought I was just being paranoid. Nicole made it sound like we were helping you, like you needed protection. Your mother saw it coming, I told him. She protected us both. Why didn't you tell me what was happening? Would you have believed me? Or would you have thought your old man was just being difficult about accepting help? He was quiet for a long time. Probably the second one, he admitted. Nicole's good at making things sound reasonable. She had me convinced that signing those power of attorney papers was just good planning. Ryan's in counseling now, working through how to set boundaries with Nicole. They're separated, probably heading for divorce. It's hard on Grace, but Ryan's got primary custody and Nicole's required to keep her financial schemes away from family matters. The house stays mine. The money stays protected in Linda's trust. Grace comes over every other weekend and helps me work in the garden that Nicole had been so interested in measuring. We plant vegetables like Linda used to, tomatoes, peppers, green beans. Grace likes the cherry tomatoes best. She'll eat them right off the vine like candy. I learned something important through all this. When someone starts talking about what's best for you while asking detailed questions about your money, pay attention. When family members stop visiting just to visit and start visiting with agendas, pay attention. When anyone suggests you're too old to handle your own affairs while offering to handle them for you, definitely pay attention. Linda knew. She saw Nicole's true nature years before I did, and she made sure to protect what we'd built together. The safe deposit box wasn't just about hiding money, it was about hiding time. Time for me to see what was happening. Time to protect myself legally. Time for Ryan to understand what his wife really wanted from his family. I keep Linda's letter in my wallet now, not because I need reminding, I'll never forget this lesson, but because sometimes the people who love us most can see dangers we miss, and the greatest gift they can give us is the tools to protect ourselves when they're no longer here to do it. Nicole moved back in with her parents last month, haven't seen her since the court hearing, and that's fine by me. Ryan brings Grace over for Sunday dinners now, just the three of us, and we're rebuilding what Nicole spent 9 years trying to undermine. Some people might say I was too hard on her, that family should work things out privately. But there's a difference between family disagreements and someone systematically planning to take control of your life savings while you're grieving your wife. The $380,000 is still sitting safely in that trust account, earning modest interest and protected from anyone who might think they deserve a piece of it. Maybe someday Grace will inherit it when she's old enough to understand its real value. Not the money itself, but the lesson about being smart enough to see trouble coming and brave enough to fight it when it arrives. Linda taught me that protecting yourself isn't just about you. It's about protecting the people who really do love you from the people who only love what they think they can get from you. That's a lesson worth $380,000 and worth a whole lot more. I still miss Linda every day, but I'm grateful she had the foresight to leave me not just financial security, but the wisdom to recognize when that security was under attack. Some gifts keep giving long after the person who gave them is gone. Linda's warning was the most valuable inheritance she could have left me, the knowledge that love sometimes means protecting people from their own family, and that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones you need to watch most carefully. That envelope marked for Clay. Don't show Nicole saved my life savings, my independence, and probably my relationship with my son. Not bad for a piece of paper hidden behind Christmas decorations. Sometimes the greatest act of love is preparing someone to fight battles you won't be there to help them win. Linda's envelope wasn't just about hiding money. It was about arming me with the knowledge that even family can become your enemy when inheritance is involved. Trust your gut when someone's concern for your welfare comes with detailed questions about your bank account. Real care focuses on your happiness and health, not your net worth and estate planning.